We're not really here yet.
So not only can you hear me, but you can hear them. So make sure we're all on the same page. If you hear me clap one time. Okay. Hear me clap 2 times. 3 times. Okay, these mics sound great. Much appreciation, tech team. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. The name is Mo Larry. I am the moderator. Remember, you can't spell moderate without Mo. That's how you can remember me. What we got going is a great Yu-Gi-Oh panel, but it's not only about you. We're going to learn about the people who play some of our most favorite characters, help build our imagination. So not only have they done this, they're doing more as well. So we get to hear what's coming new. So there's a lot of information that will pop out at this panel, and hey, feel special. You know what I mean? We're all here. Some people got their star chip snatched. Some people still couldn't make it in the shadow realm, but we are all here together. Let's feel special. With that being said, I want to bring them out. Give them a round of applause to bring them out. Hey, clap, 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 clap.
I'm Eric Stuart.
And I'm Dan Green. And you need to turn up my microphone because I'm not yelling over this crowd. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, that sounds good. Oh yeah. I just meant my own voice, not the volume.
He loves the sound of his own voice, but can you blame him?
No. How long have you been working together?
Wow. What century is it?
I think we worked on the original campaign for Fire and the Wheel.
Yes.
The Wheel was a good one.
Shortly after we used the cave paintings in Lascaux to express our ideas, yes.
I think, what are we coming up to?
20 years? 25 years?
More than that.
Yeah.
About 25 years.
About that. Yeah.
25 years. How does it feel to know, like, the replay value of the content you have created is so good? It's like 25 years later, boom, still here. That's an
Oh my
accomplishment.
God. Yeah, so one of the things I hear myself saying a lot when I'm meeting lovely people like yourself at these events is, I can't believe that anybody still cares about what we made 20 years ago. It's been about 20 years exactly with Yu-Gi-Oh! And of course we've done Pokemon stuff as well. But at the time, I was just trying not to get fired. Right? I was just like, I want this job, don't screw it up. And that it was popular at the time felt like a huge blessing, but that there are people that still care about it to this day. I'm completely humbled by that.
Yeah, I mean, to be part of at least 2 major franchises of pop culture history is humbling. When I started out and I was working on, I think one of the earlier shows I worked on was Slayers. I played Gowry on Slayers, and I had been an anime fan, but of course, if you wanted to watch anime way back then, it was in a video store. If you guys know what that is, like in the back on some one shelf that had a couple of VHS copies, and that was it. And my favorite show growing up was Battle of the Planets with G-Force, right?
Yes.
And so I just thought, this is kind of cool that I'm going to work on things that kind of look like that. And then to see it turn into the machines that it is, with Pokemon and with Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think it comes down to that both of those shows always had a subtle moral that was there, redeeming qualities about characters that we could all relate to. And it makes sense now as an adult looking back on why those things have lasted so long. But I would never have expected that when I first started working in the industry. We were just happy that we had a job.
Yeah.
So what was the tryout or the audition like? How did you get into the character? How far off is it from your normal pitch of voice? How did that go? The description.
Sure. We're talking specifically Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yeah, let's start with Yu-Gi-Oh.
So I was hired by 4Kids to direct Yu-Gi-Oh because I was directing myself and other actors on Pokemon. I wanted a schedule where I could have my days free to do auditions for other things like commercials and things like that. And so I wanted to work in the evening. And to do that, the director was like, I'm not working from 6 to 9. And I'm like, well, I will. So I worked with the engineer one-on-one and did that for many years. And 4Kids said, hey, we're now going to take everything in-house and start doing our own production. and we know that you direct these other actors and yourself. We'd like you to come and interview for this job directing our new show. And so I come into the studio, nice big facility, and I meet with the team, the Yu-Gi-Oh team, who now just only know me as Eric Stuart, the new director, or potential new director. Most of them didn't even know I was a voice actor, right? Because a whole new staff was brought on for all of these shows.
Incidentally, the Yu-Gi-Oh team all had hair like Yu-Gi.
Yes, which made it easy to recognize. Thank you. So they had already cast a bunch of the characters for the first episode. I was not involved in the casting process of the majority of those main characters, which thankfully they were all very talented people because, as a director, you would want to.
And me.
Well, you're right here, I didn't want to say that out loud. But they hadn't cast Kaiba. And for anyone who knows the first episode we ever launched, it's pretty much all about Kaiba in that first episode. So I've just been hired as the director. And the producer says, we're trying to cast this one role. I kind of know what I want, but I haven't heard it yet in all of these auditions. So that's your first order of business. You need to find me Kaiba. And I was like, that's great. So I bring in many of the actors that you guys all know from, we're very close with a lot of these people. They're our friends as well. So big audition. No, doesn't find the voice he wants. Do another set of auditions. The producer's still not hearing what he wants to hear. And we're already airing promotional commercials coming soon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, not if we can't find Kaiba. There's going to be a lot of just blank space with a lot of lip flapping with no dialogue. At some point, I turned to the engineer that I'm working with, and I'm like, man, this is really frustrating. And he says, I don't understand why you're not auditioning for this. And I said, well, because I've been hired as the director, and I'm rocking James on Pokemon at that time. Like I'm working on other shows. I didn't want to double dip and say, hey, I can do everything, which I can't, but I didn't want to say that. So I said, all right. I have an idea. So I sat down with the producer and I said, I have an idea. I think I know what you want. Let me dub half the show as Kaiba. If you hate it, we'll continue casting. If you love it, we'll be halfway to when the show needs to air, and we'll be in a good place. And he goes, all right, I don't even know anymore. That's fine, try it. So I dub half the show, he comes in, listens to about 3 lines of Kaiba, and goes, yeah, that's exactly what I've been wanting, and then walks out. And then my engineer buddy, Joe Shalik, who's sitting in front of me, facing the screen, he just played that back for the producer, turns around and says, you couldn't have done that like 3 months ago? So maybe we would have like a lunch break or something? So that's how I got the role. I know it's a long story, but that's how I got the role of Kaiba. And yes, I think that the voice I'm using, which is not that far away from what I'm doing, is the right texture for that. But it wasn't because I came up with this character voice that was so much different than what the other actors who had auditioned could do. It was because I understood the dynamic of that character. I understood his relationship to the hero. People have said, oh, well, Kaiba's my favorite bad guy, he's my favorite villain. Kaiba's not a villain, he's a rival. He's a rival, okay? You cannot be at the top of your game if there's no one there to push you, right? No one there to challenge you. So, even if it's yourself. So my role in that show was to be the rival, but we also know that he's not a villain. And I understood that dynamic. So it wasn't like this magical voice. It was more the acting.
How many out there want to be voice actors? Raise your hands, right? Okay, great. So this story is about the acting part of voice acting, right? That's what made it ring true for the producer. He had the right relationship to the material, to the character, and what that character needed to do with the story. That's what that's about.
So that's my take.
How was your audition?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward initially. I was fortunate enough to be one of the people that 4Kids was calling in with some regularity for certain roles. If they know that you can do work that they're satisfied with, you got a better chance of at least getting an audition. And I went in, and you don't have much to prepare before you get there. They show you what the character looks like. You have some lines. You've done a few lines, get some direction, and then you go. And I didn't hear anything. And I had recently-ish done Entei in Pokemon 3, and I was like, I really don't think they're going to give me a lead role because they already were so kind of giving me this other thing, and so on and so forth. And so that happened. Sure enough. I do get a call about portraying the role, but what a lot of you may not know is that I was not the first choice. So, to make a very favorable comparison, Harrison Ford was not the first choice for Indiana Jones. Hugh Jackman was not the first choice for Wolverine. Now, I'm not saying I'm as good as those guys, but sometimes the second choice works out, So, yeah, and that's also another maybe story about your job on audition is to do the best you can, right? And there's so much subjectivity that goes on from the people who are making the decisions. That's not up to you. What's up to you is to do the best you can with what you got and hope for the best. And if you keep getting called back to auditions, keep getting an opportunity to audition, you're doing the right thing, and one day it's going to come through.
Nice, beautiful. When it comes to getting in and out of character, is that kind of tough? Like you might have to wake up on the wrong side of the bed day, but you have to record some inspirational lines, so now you have to get out that funk, and then vice versa. You might be having a good day, but you have a script of insults from Kaiba. So how is that balance of getting in and out of character?
That is his good day.
I was going to say, some people are like, wow, to get into that character of Kaiba with being sarcastic and whatever and egotistical, it must be such a stretch. And I'm like, yeah. I have ad-libbed Kaiba lines in our show.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not hard to figure out. But all of the characters, at least all of the characters that I'm known for, whether it's Brock or James or Kaiba, they're all part of me. I draw upon things that are part of my personality, or people I know, or things I've experienced for those characters. I mean, I could have a conversation with all three of those guys and myself and switch back and forth, which we don't have to do. So it's not that hard. Now, vocally, sometimes when we make these choices for characters, we might need to warm up to get into. I played Dr. Z on Dinosaur King, which is a bunch of screaming and yelling. So that's the kind of thing where like warming up before you do something, getting into character, that's much more of a physical thing rather than a mental thing. I do not have a problem finding where those characters, their defining lines are.
Well, I would say that, this is also something that can be answered with, and that's the acting part of wisdom, right? So, yeah, sure, you're always in a place that's different than where your character is, but your job is to build the bridge to that moment. And one of the reasons that I first started getting into acting, I was a teenager, I was doing high school stuff, and I was having such a hard time in that span of my life that for me, it was a joy to get away from myself, right? To be another character. To have a few moments where I wasn't, dealing with whatever I felt burdened by. So having that escape, I think we can all understand that, right? And you can find that in other forms of creative expression, not just acting. But acting is, in my experience, the form of creative expression where you're most feeling like you're really being transported somewhere else because that's what you're using your imagination to do. And so that can be very gratifying. Sometimes, even if you're in a relatively good mood and you have to do an emotionally challenging scene where maybe the character is suffering, it can still be kind of therapeutic or cathartic, right? It's healthy to cry. It's healthy to feel pain. It's the most courageous thing that you can do is be vulnerable. So it's always rewarding.
And also, just to follow up on that. So, as a performer, we've had on our podcast we talk about a lot of stuff. But we talk about stage fright and the fear of even just doing this kind of stuff, getting in front of people. And I'm a singer-songwriter, so I do get a chance to do like live interaction stuff. But that's even a character. It's an exaggeration of yourself, right? So if you ever feel like, oh my goodness, I don't think I could do that, or the anxiety that's there, well then come up with a character that's yourself that you could portray, right? And I'm not saying be fake, but maybe if you just sort of separate the two things, so you're like, okay, now I'm going to be that Eric Stuart that's on stage. And I know who that guy is, I know what lines he would say, I know what his personality is, and that might help you get through that barrier, because that's it, it's an exaggerated persona. It's still
you understand that when you meet us at these events, that, I mean, Eric and I are always completely honest, right? We're never lying, right? But we are also a persona, we're sort of a version of ourselves, right? But we feel like we owe that to you.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to interact with me the way I woke up this morning.
Yeah, you come to our table, you might ask us the same question that the last 100 people have asked us. But we're fans of stuff too, right? So you deserve that moment. You deserve that interaction. You don't deserve the, oh man. And even if it's prefaced with, I know you get told this or you're asked this all the time. It's still your moment. You spent your time to wait online to talk to me and ask me a question that's your question. I'm not going to make you feel like, come on, man.
In the best of all possible worlds, that autograph is not what you're getting. It's a memento of a moment that we had together.
Yeah. So yes, we want to be up and on for you because you're taking time out of your life to come and talk to us. So yes. Would you like to meet, Eric Stuart pre-coffee? Probably not. You probably would not. You can ask my wonderful liaison assistant if there is a dark side to Eric Stuart. Yes, she will tell you there is. Not directed at her, but I definitely have told her things. So anyway.
That's nice. I hope you all understood that. So you may have to learn the craft, but you have it within you already. You got to figure out how to bring it out.
Yes.
So you all got the talent. You got to learn how to apply it. Consistency.
Yeah. Oh, and can I just say one other thing that since you just mentioned that? So when Dan asked the question about who wants to be voice actors and things like that, I want to take that one step further because this is also such a wonderful environment for creativity.
It is.
So how many in this room like to write? How many of you are musicians? Who's an artist? Who draws? Okay.
Anybody direct?
Anybody direct?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So what is amazing to me, and I'm someone who likes to see others follow their passion and do their thing, right? What's amazing to me about this very cool environment that we're in the convention world is it's filled with creativity, but it's also filled with people that have like-minded interests, right? You have right now in this room probably 5 to 10 different production companies should you decide that you wanted to collaborate with people. So enjoy the fandom and enjoy coming to the panels and asking the questions and things like that, but this is a great place to network with each other, to find out if that person who has a great story is looking for a great animator, who is looking for a great musical composer. If that's something that you want to do, this is like, man, you have the cream of the crop here. We're showing things by fan art and all these amazing things. We're like, oh my goodness, do you do this for a living? No, I just draw for myself. It's like, my goodness, this is amazing. But talk to each other beyond, I love your cosplay and this and that, and then what's your favorite show? Talk to each other about original ideas, because you might be surprised at how many of you could work together.
You already have something in common. Right? Something that you're all passionate about that brought you here. That's worth something.
When it comes to the Pokemon universe, how did that come along? Because playing a trainer, you have dialogue, but playing a Pokemon, it's like, say this Pokemon with a sad emotion, like it's like repeating.
See, but that's the most fun thing in the world.
Okay.
All language is gobbledygook. Exploding forward. All language is made up. There's nothing intrinsically meaningful about the sounds. It's what you do with them, right? So just repeating, "Kick trees, go!" You can communicate sentences with that. Or you can kind of easy break and have Enzi who actually speaks words.
Yes.
Or you too, but even if you have words, you still have to meet them. So the meeting always has to be.
I played all of the Squirtles in the Squirtle squads. There's 5 Squirtles. There are 5 Squirtles in that episode who only say Squirtle, 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 right? That's all I say, right? But I knew what they were saying. Because it would say in the right-hand side of the script, like, Squirtle's upset, or need to go somewhere. So I knew what was being said. And in my inflection and choice of dynamic, that
We could do a little. Everyone here, okay, Eric's going to give you a direction. You're going to say Squirtle. Okay, what's the intention?
so Squirtle is sad. See? Right? The real test was, okay, Squirtle is incredibly excited.
We're out of work, man.
I know.
We've just been reflecting.
But I will say that even though most people thought it was a sound effect, I didn't.
That's how you let your life.
Brock and James, I was not cast originally as Brock and James. I was the second choice, as we're talking about here. The first Brock they started working with and didn't like him, and so they called me and said, "Hey, you're our second choice." And I went, "Thank you."
It's still a choice.
James, my dear friend, played the first 5 episodes of James, and he's a stage actor and took a job where he could do what he really wanted to do. And so they brought me in as it sounded like at first. And this is before anyone on the show understood what Team Rocket's real job was and their dynamic. They wanted it to be really straight and flat and mean. And I said, I think these are the comedic bad guys. I think you got this wrong. I think this is Dick Dastardly and Muttley kind of. And they were like, no. They want to really. And then the next episode, I think, James was in drag or something like that. And I was like, and that's why we're doing this laugh, and that's why we're doing all this wacky stuff, is because they're the comedic bad guys. So, yeah, but, I played it for 10 years, so there you go.
So with so much stuff that you've done in the past and how things have been fruitful, how does that carry on to what you do now? Because I know you like to express your imagination and creativity still. So what are some new things that have popped up and grown in your life?
All right. So thank you so much. So it was shortly after the Dark Side of Dimensions where Eric and I were chit-chatting, and I think Eric said something along the lines of, we should really do something together, similar to what he just said to you in this room, where there's a production company right in front of your face. I happen to have a bunch of story ideas. I was always thinking of stories when I was a kid. I'm not saying they're all good stories, but it's something that I like to do. And so I have a concept in my back pocket that I developed as an animated series I did about 20 years ago. So anyway, I sort of refashioned it, because part of what we wanted to do was, we know that we can work well together, and we're good friends with Wayne Grayson and Greg Abbey and Veronica Taylor and people that we know that you like. And so I had a premise that had a large cast, an ensemble, and I shot it past not only Eric, but my dear friend Anthony Hayden-Salerno, who's directed so much stuff. He's also voiced a number of anime characters. And so we said, yeah, let's make this a show. Let's do this thing. And that project is still not yet finished, but it's all been recorded. The whole script was written. All the actors did a wonderful job. It's doing the visual part that's taking so much longer. But that's a show called Crossing the Gods. And so that was the first thing that we did and created our production company called Andromeda Productions. That's spelled A-U-Drama-D-A. And
well, and one of the reasons we came up with that title too is because what Crossing the Gods is an illustrated audio drama. So imagine listening.
It's not exactly animation, but there are visuals.
So if you were listening to an audio book while reading a very cool black and white comic book,
that's the feel.
That's the vibe.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And it has sound design, it has a musical score and all that. So it feels like a very complete audio experience, right? But I kept on doing more sophisticated treatment on the visuals, and Eric and Tony were like, yeah, more of that. and that just takes a...
Well, because he's hand drawing it. I mean, Dan is hand drawing the images. So once he introduced us to what his capabilities were, we were like, oh yeah, so yeah, I know we said we just want to do this much, but because you could do that, can you also now do this much? So that's the only reason why it's
Give me a
taking
few
us
years.
a little bit of time to complete it.
And COVID didn't help.
No,
That was a 2-year pause on everything. So anyway, but that's how the drama production started. But in the process of that, I had the idea, we should do a podcast. We should do something where we get to actually connect with you guys more directly. Something that doesn't take years to illustrate before we can share it. And so that's when the idea came to do our podcast called The Heart of the Cards. And you might recognize that person. And it's not a podcast about playing Duel Monsters. No offense to Duel Monsters. It's our log line for the show is it's a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what you're dealt. And dealing with what you're dealt doesn't mean only the problematic things. It could also be good things. You want to be sure to play your cards right, as it were. And in the first arc of our conversation on the podcast, I ran this past Eric. I said, hey, what if we use the hero's journey, which is something you can look up easily online if you're not already familiar with it. Joseph Campbell talks about how myths and various stories throughout cultures throughout time have a lot of the same archetypes in it. The call to adventure, where the hero, is enticed on their journey or their quest, and the things that happen along the way. And so the reason I thought that would be a good structure to have a conversation is because everybody can relate to it. It's a part of almost every story that you probably already love. Anybody seen Star Wars? It's George Lucas based the first movie exactly on what's called the hero's cycle, hero's journey. So, but you'll see it everywhere. So that is, we're not teaching the hero's journey. We're using that as a way to kick off our conversations and reflect on how does this part of the hero's journey ring true for your life. But we also had wonderful conversations with Ryan Taylor, Eric Schroeder, Greg Abbey, Nick Pollock. And we also we started getting some nice responses from the people who were following it. So with a couple of episodes, we're reading letters from fans who often say the most endearing things. Sure. And sometimes it's hard not to get choked up.
Yeah, and unlike it would be very easy for us to do a podcast based on the things that you know us from. Right? And just keep it very safe, and we probably would get a ton more listeners immediately if that's what it was. Listen to Kaiba and Yugi argue or whatever it is. But when we were talking about doing this, I said I don't want to just do that. That doesn't.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
And it just doesn't resonate with what I would like to do in this format. That's an easy way out for me. I thought, you know what? If people are interested in pursuing their passions and doing their thing, or if they are, for some reason, look up to us or people in our world as I want to be doing what they're doing, they should also understand that we're not perfect, and the things that we have dealt with in life and how we navigate around that might give you some inspiration and some power to also overcome whatever you're dealing with. Everybody's got baggage, right? We've all got this. Everybody's got a story to tell, but that also doesn't define you. I mean, there have been wonderful things that have happened to both of us, and there have been tragic things that have happened to both of us. And we're very honest in our podcast in sharing those things, both good and bad. Not that we're being, we're not being your therapist.
No. We don't presume to tell people what to think.
When you learn that someone that you might want to follow their footsteps, when you learn that, oh my goodness, that's what they went through, or this is, I'm dealing with something that's like that, or the same energy that is, okay, if that's how they navigated that, maybe I can get past this, or wow, it's too hard to become a this and too hard to become a that. Well, how did they get into the business? That's what they were doing, that's where they were working hard to, that's what they were focusing on. Okay, I can do that. I had an artist come up to me in Jackson, Mississippi at a convention, and he said to me, I've been listening to your podcast, and I realized I had talked myself out of becoming an artist because I thought, who's going to hire an artist from Jackson, Mississippi? I'm in a small town, nobody cares about art here. No one's ever going to see my stuff. And then I listened to you and I said, wait a second, I just need to put it out there. It doesn't matter where I physically am. Of course, there's the internet and there's this and that. I can do this. And he showed me his work and it was fantastic. And I'm not going to take credit for his change of heart, but I am going to say,
It's not fun.
right? But it's like, that's the point, is that if we can share something that will help others in finding their own direction, their own journey, their own hero's journey, then that's what made the podcast idea seem interesting to me. So imagine just two friends sitting down talking about life. And the hero's journey, that was our starter.
Yeah.
Dan would say, this is what we're going to talk about today. And then that would just make us spontaneously talk about a story that related to that.
Has anybody here listened to the Heart of the Cards podcast? Okay, yes, I know Lance says over there.
Where can you find it?
It's on YouTube, and you have to look for Andromeda Productions. But yeah, that's it.
But anyway,
we drop new episodes every Tuesday, and also, you know, we're talking about the meaningful stuff about it. But it's not like we're having this super deep, always about pain conversation. No.
Every once in a
I think the
while, it's kind of
conversation-
funny.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. It's fun, and it's family friendly.
Yes, you don't use any foul
like
language, you can have it on and
Yes.
say.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but it also, it's just, I love the idea of being able to have more give and take conversation relationship, not just with people that we bring on the show, but with people that listen to the show. And, you know, without you guys, we wouldn't mean diddly, you know? So, I think it's easy to misunderstand who you know, the dynamic here. You make us special, right? So we're well aware of it.
And it's also nice to see Dan show off some of his other talents as an artist. He's got some prints on his table that he drew, okay? And he's drawing the Heart of the Cards. I'm working on some other projects that are some original ideas. It's a comic book, all of these things. And this is a perfect example of somebody who you know for one thing in that world. And I knew as a voice actor first. And when I discovered he was also a very talented graphic artist, I thought, oh my goodness, wait a second, why are we not doing something with this? How cool is that? And so it's fun to work on projects where someone gets to show off even more of who they are. I told him the other day, I said, I'm going to be quite honest with you, I think you're one of the most talented actors I've ever worked with, but I think in your soul you are an artist first. And I said, I think you're an artist.
A nice slap.
He did. He did. Anyway.
So what keeps you two motivated? I know when we spoke about Yu-Gi-Oh, you said I'm just trying to get the job now. So motivation is paying bills and things of that nature. But now that things have progressed like this, how do you keep inspiring yourself to want to do something new when you can just throw in the towel?
But that's it, something new.
Yeah.
Learning something new every day, being
And
creative.
even when we were just trying to, you know, keep that job, we had already made a choice about our path. You know, if you can do, you'll hear this expression about many things, but it applies to acting as well as writing or whatever. If you can do anything else, do it, right? But if you can't do anything else, the choice is clear. And when something really speaks to you, you got to listen to that. You can't, I mean, you can find it, but it won't bring happiness. It won't bring fulfillment.
Yes, and for me, voice acting was a way for me to work in the creative industry, doing something I enjoyed, but to support my true passion, which is songwriting and music.
Right.
So my motivation for working in the industry and you know, chasing after jobs or whatever it may be, has always been, I want to have the freedom to write and play my own music without having to listen to anyone else or follow anyone else's direction with that. That's going to be my own thing. And whatever becomes of it, becomes of it. But that's my outlet, that's my therapy. And I love it, but I also never wanted it to be my job.
Yeah.
So my motivation is I enjoy voice acting. I really enjoy directing and producing even more so than playing the role sometimes, because I like to bake the cake. I like to put the ingredients in. I'm a band leader. I'm a producer.
It's still storytelling, but you have
Yes.
more things to play with.
Yeah, do you guys remember the fun little show Viva Pinata? Yeah. So I directed Viva Pinata, and of course Dan played Hudson Orstachio. But I recorded that show with each actor individually, and then compiled the dialogue. I sequenced it to make it sound like they were talking to each other. So in my mind, I knew how I was going to make these people speak, and the timing between. And then to put that together later as a director and a producer, I'm like, now that was really cool to do. It's like making a music track. You know, so my motivation is to stay creative, and of course, in my place in my life right now, I do try to choose quality over quantity. I want to interact with people that I care about, spend time with the people that I love, do the things that I love to do, because life is very, very short. And on our podcast, Dan will quote me on this, my least two favorite words that I will tell a creative person that you should never have to ask yourself at the end of your journey is what if, okay? If you decide to try it, that's the success. The success is the journey, not the pot of gold.
Right.
But at the end of that journey, you say to yourself, man, what if I had just taken that 1 year and did the thing that I really wanted to do? Because what could you always go back to? The safety of that other job. You could always figure, and you could always, that will always be waiting for you. But what will not be part of your life is if you say there are too many artists, there are too many actors, there are too many, so I'm not even going to try. But if we all said that, we would have none of those people.
And recognition and financial success, of course, that's a lovely thing. But creativity in itself is its own reward.
Mm-hmm.
You're already getting something out of it by the sheer act of doing it. Even when you don't do it to your satisfaction. That's a good thing. Work off that, build on it.
Yeah, I don't make my money playing music, but that's who I am. And anyone who's ever listened to my music will know that that's who I am. But I make my money off of being a voice actor, which it's who I am. This is a strange career path that I've taken, and it's fantastic. And I'm very, very lucky to do this for a living and get a chance to even do this part. Someone said to me, I want to be a voice actor so I can go to conventions and sign autographs like you. I said, you, my friend, do not want to be an actor.
Right.
But honestly, like, do the thing that you want to do. The pressure of the financial part, I'm not going to tell you to quit your job, because I work and I do my other things. But I am going to tell you that if you truly want to do something different, even for yourself, you're the only person that really matters in that situation. If you're happy because you're doing something as a creative outlet, you're going to be a very nice person to be around. You're going to be excited. You're going to be just the dynamic, the glow that you will give off. You will be someone that people want to be around and spend time with, because there's nothing cooler than seeing someone say, I made this, I did this.
Right.
This is just from my imagination.
This speaks to something that Joseph Campbell talks about in The Hero's Journey. And, you know, none of us are in the position where we can, quote unquote, save the world as a character in a myth might be able to do. But if you live your life in a sense of following your bliss, is a term that's used, and really fulfilling yourself in that way, you save the world by saving yourself. You save the world by being a vitally alive person in this world. Being your truest self is a benefit not just to you, but to everybody who knows you. And also to echo something, none of us has earned the time we're given. You're the only one who can spend it.
That was deep.
It's a Dan Green original.
I said it on the podcast.
It's all about. All right, so you're in charge now. You're in charge now. Yes.
This is a vast nation building right here in this finest, so you have no excuse at the end of the day to start off your Monday like, yeah, I'm gonna hop into it. Get a notebook and a pen and get to it. Like, no excuses. That's beautiful. Okay, I want to open some questions.
Yeah.
Okay, boom. You want to step up here and ask a question?
Come on up, buddy.
Yeah. Nice fit.
That's a time.
All right? Yeah. Boom, baby.
First of all, I don't know why I'm just learning you have a podcast. Y'all gotta get on African, I don't know. I just wanted to know if we talked about won the duel at the end of Dark Side Conventions.
Oh yeah. I think the audience won.
Or we can ask the audience that question.
Oh, also, so anybody on Instagram and Twitter, you can follow me at Dan Green Voices. At Dan Green Voices. Yes, I have some supporters here. Thank you so much. And about a month or so ago, I guess it's a couple months now, there's a 2-minute video I put up. It's a premise about what would happen after the dark side of dimensions. So I have a very full answer to that question there.
Boom. Extra content.
That's right.
I think what happened was Kaiba bought Elon Musk and took over Twitter.
Sound theory. It's a sound theory.
I remember when he did first take it over and everyone was like, this is going to be, whatever, they can't get this done. I tweeted out, do you need me to bring in some Kaiba Corp people to get this done? I had one of those polls, who should run Twitter? I actually won that.
I would love to hear what Kaiba has to say about blue check.
I built a space station that you can take an elevator to. Come on now, people.
That's hilarious. Okay, you can just stand up
Yeah.
and just shout.
Yeah, so you spoke, or my name's Brandon, by the way.
Hey, Brandon.
You spoke earlier on this idea of you feel like the fans deserve to have a cool moment with y'all throughout here. That's really awesome, and I was wondering, like, I'm sure that's really great for you too to provide those moments, but I'm sure that also can be maybe a burden sometimes. To feel like I really need to give these people what they're like looking for. How do you like balance maybe that part of it? How do you balance this expectation that you set for yourself and not let that kind of hit your self-esteem in a way that kind of like knocks you out for a while?
Do you mind to look at this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great question, very observant. So it is challenging, yes. Nobody has ever come up to my table and been just a jerk, right? The challenging part is balancing how much can I give to whoever is in front of me versus there might be a lot, right? So sometimes I feel like in order to get everybody, I need to maybe spend less time with each person so everyone gets seen, right? So there's a balance there. But probably the best and hardest part is when people so generously share how meaningful this content that the show has been to them. One young man shared a story about his older brother who has difficulty speaking, who has difficulty walking because of something that happened neurologically. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the thing that lights him up, right? After he did it, there was like a video message. You want to top of autograph something, and then he didn't have enough money for the quote. That's the upcharge and all that shit. Pardon me. So anyway, I'm doing the video message. I'm choking up, right? And I couldn't accept his money, But that's good. It's good because it's human. Yeah. People will share. Like some people. I was in LA the other week. The guy came to the table and he just couldn't contain himself. He started crying and he kept apologizing. I was like, dude, that's fine. We're all friends here. It's cool.
Yeah, and you use the word burden. I would not use the word burden for any of this. I make a choice to be a guest at a convention. It is not my job. This is a bonus. I've said this to other guests who I've seen have maybe not given those moments to the fandom. Then stay home.
Yeah.
No one is forcing you to come here. If you're going to come here and be a guest, interact with these people and be humbled by it, right?
Yeah.
The only time it becomes a little, we're both human, and we're both people who are empathetic to a lot of things, and we are affected by a lot of things.
Yeah.
So when we do hear the heartfelt stories, it does give us, it affects us, and we need a moment sometimes. That does happen. The thing that I have to it's a hard thing for me, because I do like to talk, and I do like to share, and I do like to help, is when asked, how do you get into the business, can you give me some tidbits on this? It's too long an answer for me to give you at my table.
Especially the way he talks.
Exactly. Because I also don't want, when I do see that there's a line, and I know that there's many guests that you might want to see, or many things that you might want to do, go to panels, I don't want you to be standing in my line for a half an hour or longer, because...
About season 0 of YouTube.
Yeah.
Heard of it.
Would you ever do it?
Well, you should take
Yeah, for sure. That comes up a lot. I mean, there was some episodes that were like Yu-Gi-Oh! And cut.
Yeah.
But not too long ago, again up on my socials, I put up a minute-long thing where Eric and I are voicing Yugi and Kaiba straight out of the manga. And my idea, and I've directed and been in motion comics before, and I knew exactly what I wanted, because some of them are done better than others. And I wanted it to feel exactly like you're reading the manga, so even the images are going from right to left, right, as the camera goes. We don't have the rights to do that, right? But I think it would be a really good idea to, if we could produce that using the original voice cast and keep it as true to Sensei Takahashi's comic, his manga, as possible, as a tribute to him.
Yeah.
And that way, we get to perform characters that we like to perform. The fans get to hear these characters in a way that is maybe familiar, but also completely fresh and new.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to really see where it all started with Sensei Takahashi. So, again, we can't pull that trigger, but yeah, that'd be nice.
What was it like working for Fortress back then?
Just general? Yeah. You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I was a senior staff voice director there for 10 years. It was
Excuse us.
Guys, back. Guys, we're hearing you a little too much.
guys.
Tag team, we can hear you. Excuse us. You good, all right.
Yeah.
So as a voice director there, I got to work on a bunch of different shows, and it was it's a good gig, very creative people. I met some of the closest friends I've had, in my life there. But the other thing that's interesting about working at that company is I really feel like even though there's things that we had to change, and I'll explain to you why, because with broadcast standards and practices, the network controls what you air. And Saturday morning cartoons in this country have very strict rules. So even though we might present the show in a certain format, the network would say you need to remove that cigarette, you need to change that image, you need to rewrite this line because they controlled the rules with that. But in defense of that, if it were not for establishing a show like Pokemon on Saturday morning cartoons, we would not have as many anime conventions in this country and this world because it made anime accessible to beyond just the fandom of anime fans. Pokemon is a mainstream cartoon, aired in every country, in every language. It became accessible and it made the fandom where I knew grandmothers that knew what Pokemon was and where little kids knew what it was. And to this day, you could still say that name and I know that, or my kids grew up watching that. So it was interesting to be part of a production company that was bringing over a foreign product and then making it worldwide. And making it worldwide so that every country that aired it felt it was their show. The French think that, little kids growing up watching Pokemon, that Pokemon is French, right? So that's why it was satisfying to work there. And working for a major company like that with broadcast shows with a tough schedule was also stressful. But, we won't be here super late today, so that's something to come see us if you want to see us.
Tell us your podcast one more time.
The Heart of the Cards, a Dramina Productions on YouTube.
No excuses. Break it out. Let's get more